making sure food reaches more people while wasting less of it. This is what AGREA Philippines works towards. The woman at the forefront of the social enterprise founder and CEO, Cherrie Atilano, tells us more. Thank you so much for joining us, Cherrie.
Thank you very much, Rico. It's such a privilege to be here.
Wow, I was reading your bio and you started teaching farmers at 12 years old. How did this all come about?
Oh, I was 11 and my mom put me in a scholarship center in Silay. It's called CMAG. And then I was learning how to grow vegetables there. And then me and my sister starting teaching farmers how to plant vegetables and do composting in the hacienda where I grew up. So basically, I grew up in a sugarcane farm in Silay, Negros Occidental.
11, 12 years old, you should have inspired women in the dozens or even the hundreds or thousands over the past 20 years that you have been a farmer. But if you take a look at the statistics, it's still a male-dominated industry. 89% male, 11% female. Why is this happening? Why are there not enough women in agriculture, Cherrie?
Actually, Rico, that's a very sad statistics, right? So I've been fighting for it. That's why we're really empowering a lot of women farmers. Actually, it starts with land titling issues in the Philippines. When the agrarian reform happened, if you review, some of the lands are named under the husbands. So until now, it has so many repercussions in terms of problems, and a lot of women are not recognized, despite they're working in the farms or they're part of the entire value chain. So it's basically a matter of recognition and counting them as part of the ecosystem.
So we have to really, like what's written behind you, break the bias.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
these land titles also have to be put in women's names.
Yes, yes.
Why is that happening? I mean, it's already been so many years. Shouldn't we break that glass ceiling, and shouldn't it be happening now?
It should have been happening yesterday,
Okay.
not now, actually, Rico. It's because, you know, when these legal barriers would be broken, it can actually help a lot of farmers and women farmers to have access to education, have access to financial institutions. Because most of them, for example, if I listen to them on the ground, they would tell me, Cherrie, we couldn't go to microfinance even or some banks because the land title is named under my husband. So I cannot use it as a little collateral, right? So that's one barrier, is such a big struggle, and we're looking forward to really review that one, and the government is actually working on it.
And sometimes also a lot of the women cannot also handle the job because they're not only tilling the land, but they're also taking care of the household.
Yes, but actually that's the beauty of that. You know, because when you empower the woman to really become a farmer, the first act of a woman farmer is actually to bring healthy and nutritious food on their table. And then after that, they're very entrepreneurial, Rico. During the pandemic, you remember, you interviewed me also for the final word. And I was really expressing, it's the women in the farming communities who are the first to go out. They're the first to become frontliners and saying, nabubulok na yung mga gulay namin at mga prutas namin. We need help. You know, so it's so much empowerment, and at the same time, we still need to empower them in terms to have access to better education, have access to better training. And to answer your question a while ago, it's, you know, farming is always associated to poverty and drudgery. Drudgery, it's because it's so difficult in the farms. And for all our, you know, technology developer, we need to develop technologies also that are lighter for women farmers. Our tractors are so big, the women farmers cannot afford to drive all those, you know, 480 horsepower tractors, right? And we need to even design and think and recreate our ecosystem to accommodate women.
And the way you promote farming is that it has to be sexy,
Yes.
no?
Yeah. It needs to be sexy and glamorous, right? I always dress up because it's a stereotype against farmers that, oh, they're always kawawa, butas-butas in damit, you know. But for me, we need to elevate and change the narrative of agriculture. And changing the narrative of agriculture is inclusivity, to bring more people, especially the women, in the ecosystem, because it's so nice. They're very entrepreneurial. They're very madiskarte. And at the same time, bring the youth, because our farmers are also aging. So if you bring a lot of young people, we can really create a very tech-savvy kind of agricultural economy.
So Cherrie, if we change the narrative, if we make it more sexy, will the Philippines be once again a net exporter of rice? Because right now, we are importers of rice because in 1960, agriculture was 64% of our total exports. Today, it is only down to 8%.
Definitely, Rico. When we make farming sexy, it means like making farming something that it's profitable. We make farming that it's not like a one-way ticket to poverty. We make our farmers and convert them to be farmer entrepreneurs, especially our agrarian reform farmers. However, though, it's a lot of ecosystem that we need to provide. Access to financing, better sustainable agricultural practices, market linkage. And more importantly, I'm really challenging the public and the private sector to really provide better infrastructure to our farmers. During the pandemic, there's so much business can be done in logistics, supply chain, cold storage that private sector could enter, and the government should really build a farm-to-market road and better irrigation systems for our farmers and post-harvest facilities.
We have an election on
Yes.
May 9th. Crucial elections on May 9th, where the president, vice president, and all the lawmakers will be running the country over the next 6 years until 2028. What is on your wish list for the next administration to make agriculture a priority and for us to move forward and once again become net exporters of rice?
Rico,
And maybe even sugar, fish.
My wish list all the time is to focus on increasing our public funding for agriculture. We're feeding 120 million people nowadays, and our budget for agriculture is 1 to 2%, in the national budget. And second one, I always explain to our farmers, right? Please, wag niyo ibenta yung boto nyo because 6 years is too short for a good president and too long for a bad president. But you're here, if a person would live for 60 years, you're feeding that person in 6 decades. So your responsibility is higher than the leadership of this country. So it really needs to also from them, the ownership that they are the solution of a lot of pressing problems. But of course, our farmers and our fishers, they also need support, not only from the public sector, but also from the private sector. And nowadays, the silver lining of the pandemic, there are a lot of private sectors coming together to basically help our farmers. So many agri-tech and technological companies in terms of, market linkage are actually coming along to make it happen, especially the supply chain.
Cherrie, you are not only an inspiration to the agricultural sector, but to all Filipinos. Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.
Oh, my pleasure, Rico. Always. Thank you again. And if you eat, Rico, and everyone, if you're eating, please thank a farmer.
Thank you to all our farmers. Cherrie Atilano from AGREA Philippines.